Hello learners, today we'll be discussing about human footprints on global warming. The human population is one of the major driving factors of ecological footprints. The human settlement and their activities interact with the environment in very complex ways. The present day global population is about 7.6 billion, which is expected to cross 11 billion by the end of the century. The addition of 1 billion inhabitants occurred within the last 12 years. The human footprints are visible in terms of industrialization, deforestation, urbanization, desertification and stratospheric ozone depletion, which are major global issues in this 21st century. The disproportionate increase in population resulted in difficulty in managing the valuable resources, natural resources, and that has resulted in global warming and climate change. The human and the Earth's climate are related by two important factors in the past few decades. The first and foremost aspect is the anthropogenic activities, including but not limited to burning of fossil fuels, land use changes, agriculture and industrial activities are responsible for greenhouse gas emissions and eventually the change in climate. The second aspect is the human communities are more vulnerable to the hazards such as extreme events, weather events, extreme high temperature events, storms, floods and droughts resulting from increasing population density in sensitive areas such as the river banks and the coastal plains. See, the first and foremost imprint of human beings on the global landscape is the industrialization. The process of social and economic change of an agrarian society to an industrial society is known as industrialization. This industrialization is related to the development of a country and it has helped immensely in employment generation as well. But industrialization had a major role to play in global warming. The industrial sector as a whole releases 21% of global greenhouse gas emissions. The emissions were from the energy consumption, fossil fuel burning, chemical, metallurgical and mineral transformation processes as well and waste management activities. The fossil fuel combustion and the global manufacture of cement responsible for more than 75% of human caused carbon dioxide emissions. The second footprint of human action is the deforestation. The forest ecosystem has productive, protective and regulatory functions to play. The forests have a special role in maintaining the carbon cycle. The estimates for the terrestrial sink of carbon dioxide for the decade between 1993 to 2003 was 3,300 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent per year. The deliberate conversion of forest to non-forested land use like arable land, urban use, logged area or wasteland results in deforestation. So deforestation is the conversion of forest to another land use or long-term reduction of tree canopy cover below the 10% threshold. The deforestation process contributes directly to greenhouse effect by non-availability of that forest area to sequester carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Forest area in developing regions will decrease by about 200 to 500 million hectares between 2000 and 2050. The removal of forest cover reduces water retention capacity of the soil and increases soil erosion. So the impact was more in lowland areas with high intensity of floods. Let us see the causes of deforestation. These are the forces that motivate the agents to clear the forest. Direct agents are referred to as first level or proximate causes and their identification is comparatively easy. The indirect causes on the other hand are the main drivers of deforestation and they are expansion of farming land, which in fact contributes to 60% of total tropical deforestation. The second important cause is the shifting agriculture that is taking place in the tropical ecosystems. The third important cause for deforestation is the urbanization and industrial activity, and the next one is the infrastructural development, construction of road, railways, bridges and airports that also lead to deforestation. Next cause is the forestry and other plantation related activities like timber plantations that also results in deforestation. Other causes includes the overgrazing activities, forest fires, it can be a natural phenomenon or else it can be induced by human beings also, and the last cause is the mining activity. These agents are linked to deforestation, degradation and fragmentation of forest. This phenomenon not only represents loss of forest by converting to non-forest activity but also include the degradation of forest quality. The forest degradation refers to reduction in values of forest, including the reduction in biomass by unsustainable harvest or land use practices, logging, fire and other human induced disturbances, fuel wood collection also. Forest is the habitat of terrestrial biodiversity and it supports livelihoods and acts as a carbon sink and helps in climate change mitigation as well. Now let us look at the impacts of deforestation. The first and foremost impact is climate change. The deforestation causes change in the local and global climate. The dry climate occurred due to deforestation in parts of India, Peninsula Malaysia, parts of Philippines, Ivory Coast and Panama Canal area in the Central American country, and also in the southwestern China and northwestern part of Costa Rica and northern Tanzania. These all are because of deforestation activity. The forest loss and forest degradation increase carbon dioxide level in the atmosphere. The deforestation and degradation affect the annual absorption of 2.4 billion tons of carbon dioxide released by fossil fuel burning. The emission from deforestation was roughly 2 billion tons of carbon to the atmosphere per annum. The radiation budget is getting affected by increase in albedo of land surface. It also affects the flow of wind velocity, water vapor exchange. The rainfall pattern and the intensity is also affected because of deforestation. The deforestation increases drought and desertification, crop failures due to meteorological drought or agricultural drought, melting of polar ice caps, coastal flooding and displacement of major vegetation regime as well. The second important impact of deforestation is the biodiversity and habitat loss. The deforestation is directly related to habitat destruction and fragmentation. The tropical forests are rich in biodiversity that act as habitat for two-thirds of all known species and contain 65% of endangered species. The habitat loss also increases the human-wildlife conflicts. The third important impact of deforestation is loss of soil and water resources. The removal of forest reduces evapotranspiration and it directly affects the water cycle, hydrological cycle. This influences the water recharge in the rivers and also in other aquatic habitats. The ultimate result is the scarcity of water for drinking and for irrigation purpose. It increases the soil erosion as the forest roots no longer hold the soil moisture, and it also affects the water infiltration rate also. This results in runoff and siltation in water bodies, wetlands and man-made dams. The heavy siltation increases riverbeds and causes flooding. The deforestation also creates environmental refugees in some parts of the world. Next important human footprint on the global landscape is urbanization. The urbanization is a global phenomenon. It involves transformation of human settlements. It covers the movement of people from rural to urban areas, as well as the transformation of rural areas into urban areas. This is urbanization. The current percent of total world population that live in urban areas is about 55%. However, it is projected that the urban population will reach 5 billion by 2030. As per the census of India, the latest census in 2011, the growth in urban population during 2001 and 2011 was 31.8% against the national population growth of 17.6%. India has more than 35 million plus cities and is in the estimated housing for 14% of global urban population by 2025. Delhi, Mumbai and Kolkata ranks 2nd, 7th and 10th position as most populous urban agglomeration in the globe. The emergence of urban clusters and their expansion consumes significant proportion of agricultural land and substantially impacts the biological diversity. The urban activities are major source of greenhouse gas emissions, and rapid growing urban population is more vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. The urbanization has affected the microclimate and cause urban heat island effect. It also causes increase in the flood hazards, deterioration of air quality, and it also impacts the local climate and the precipitation, intensity of the precipitation as well. The urban heat island effect is formed by the increase in the temperature in the urban areas as compared to the rural areas or in the pre-urban areas by anthropogenic waste heat emissions. The temperature of urban areas has increased due to direct heat generation from human activities, removal of vegetation, construction of buildings, roads, pavements and other human transformations of the natural environment. So the surface heat was accelerated by increase in the latent heat flux by lack of evapotranspiration from the trees and more radiation absorption by the urban canopy. The structures, I am talking about the buildings, the road, the pavements. The second important impact of urbanization is the urban flooding. The urbanization causes changes in the land use and microclimate, which affects the hydrology and hydroclimatology of the area. This variability directly influences flood hazards in the cities. The frequency and magnitude of floods increased due to climate change driven extreme precipitation events and also poor infiltration in the cities. The urbanization also affects the rainfall pattern due to alteration in the hydrometeorology. The cities in the coastal regions or near river deltas are more prone to floods with its urban characteristics as well as from the changes in the sea level, tides and large-scale runoff to the rivers. The factors causing urban flood hazards are meteorological factors, hydrological factors and human factors. When you talk about the meteorological factors, they include cyclonic storms, small-scale storms, temperature increase and also snow melt. As regards the hydrological factors, it is basically the soil moisture level, groundwater level, natural surface infiltration rate, impervious cover and cross-sectional shape and roughness of channels and presence or absence of overbank flow, channel network. There are many factors included in hydrological factors. The third factor is the human factors. It actually aggravates the natural flood hazards like the land use changes, surface sealing, increase in runoff, sedimentation, floodplain obstructing flows, inefficiency or non-maintenance of infrastructure as well, and increasing the flood peak, climate change and urban microclimate. There are so many factors that is included in the human dimensions to urban flooding. The urban floods are also classified based on the causal factors into 4 categories like the local floods, riverine floods, coastal floods and flash floods. The next important footprint of human action on the global environment is the particulates. The particulates are particulate matter refers to a suspended solid particles and liquid molecules in the air. It includes inorganic dust, organic soot particles, smoke and liquid droplets that differ in size, composition and origin. The particulates are either primary or secondary particles with natural or anthropogenic sources. The natural sources are wildfires, sea spray and resuspension of organic matter, and human made sources are vehicular emissions and wood smoke emissions from combustion of fossil fuels and also biomass. The industries like brick works, refineries, cement works, iron and steel industry, quarrying industry, fossil fuel power plants, thermal power plants are also the sources of particulate matter in the atmosphere. There are basically two types of particulate matter. One is PM10, the other one is PM2.5. The particulate matter with less than or equal to 10 micrometer aerodynamic diameter is PM10. As far as the PM2.5 is concerned, the particulate matter with aerodynamic diameter smaller or equal to 2.5 micrometers are called as PM2.5. These are very fine particles, which are inhalable. Definitely will cause a lot of respiratory problems as well. It is also called as fine PM. It is also called as fine PM, means fine particulate matter. The particulate matter also include aerosols emitted from the marine environment, the mineral dust particles, biological aerosols and volcanic ash. The biogenic emissions, open burning of biomass or fossil fuel act as sources for secondary organic aerosol, precursor gases. The primary biological aerosol particles comprise the viruses, the bacteria, fungal spores and also pollen grains. The dry deposition act as sink for the particulates. The particulate matter can move very long distances, causing local, regional and global impacts. The particulates are directly related with health, visibility and also radiative forcing. The next important footprint of human action is desertification. United Nations Convention to combat desertification has defined desertification as land degradation in the arid, semi-arid and dry subhumid areas resulting from various factors including climatic variations and also human activities. The thickly populated areas are more vulnerable to desertification and they in fact possess a very high risk for further land degradation. The Mediterranean countries of North Africa, West African countries, large areas of Central and Southern Asia, South America and northeast corner of Brazil are prone to desertification. The consequences of desertification are reduction in land cover, quantity and quality of water, crop production, carbon dioxide emissions, increase in wind erosion and also formation of gullies. As per United Nations Convention to combat desertification, the global loss of productive land due to desertification is 12 million hectares per annum. The desertification affects the climatic condition in dryland areas and these regions are more prone to drought. To sum it up, the population growth, industrialization and urban expansion increase the anthropogenic emissions of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere and it increases the global temperature. The industrialization and urbanization are major agents of deforestation. The urban design reduced the potential for evaporative cooling and caused urban heat islands with a unique microclimate. The particulate matter emissions from vehicles and industries are high in urban areas. The desertification results from the warming up of the earth due to the human pressure. So in effect, the climate change and variability that we observe in the present times are mainly due to human activities, including but not limited to deforestation, industrialization and urbanization. Thank you.